Welcome, everybody, to the fourth webinar in our Week of Webinars series this week. We have with us Mist talking about using AI to deliver amazing Wi-Fi and BLE experiences. And Christian Gilby will be our presenter today, sharing this information with us. Before we get started into the presentation, I just want to give you a quick reminder about Wi-Fi Trek that's coming up now in less than 30 days in San Diego. So if you haven't registered or you don't know all of the details, go to conferences.cwnp.com in order to learn more. That's conferences.cwnp.com. And if this was a radio commercial, there'd be one more time, right? So conferences.cwnp.com. We are excited to have Mist with us today. They are one of the sponsors for our conference and have some exciting technologies to share with you. So I'm not going to take up a lot of time. I want to leave as much time for Christian as I possibly can. So Christian, at this point, I'll turn it over to you. You can tell us a little bit more about yourself and just get right into your presentation.
All right, thanks a lot, Tom, and good morning, good afternoon, everybody. So I'm Christian Gilby, Director of Product Marketing at Mist, and I'm going to get started, run through a little bit of an introduction to Mist if you're not familiar with us, some of the challenges in Wi-Fi networks today, as well as Bluetooth location, and then I'll jump right into an actual live demo so you can see a little view into what you can actually do with the system. So we get started looking at some of the top business objectives for the next 2 years. It's really clear that digital transformation is happening, and it's happening across multiple enterprises, different verticals, retail, healthcare, hospitality. Businesses are also looking to drive new sources of revenue and really deliver a better end user experience. And there's some challenges in terms of how we can actually do that. And I think that some of the key areas that came out of this recent CIO survey was really leveraging AI to drive insight, focus on mobile user experience. You've got to give a great user experience to your customers, your employees, and then be able to scale your business. There's a lot more distributed enterprises now that want to take advantage of cloud-based networking, cloud-based apps to really have that elastic scale. And then the last one is really a move to really leveraging DevOps for agility and automation, because you can't scale to support the devices. I mean, I look at some of the stats out there. By 2020, there's going to be north of 20 billion IoT devices. 2022, I saw another study yesterday that's saying 50 billion connected IoT things. And you just can't keep doing what you're doing in terms of manual configuration and setup. You really need things like AI and APIs to really drive that automation for your business. So what we really see as one of the ways to really deliver that is what we call AI for IT, or AI Ops, as a lot of people in the industry talk about. And it's really leveraging an AI engine to really give visibility and policy control across wireless, wired, security, WAN. So that's where Mist is. We've really focused and started on wireless. We're also now partnering with vendors in the wired space, security, and WAN to really extend AI out to those other platforms, because we really believe it's got to be a best-of-breed solution across vendors. And that's really going to give this automation, agility, and programmability. Now, if I look at some of the challenges of delivering Wi-Fi, and I've been doing Wi-Fi since 2002, one of the big things is a lot of systems today really focus on, is the connection up? i.e., does the client have a connection? What's their RSSI or signal strength? It doesn't mean the user has a good connection and their apps are working well. So really believe that you need to start focusing on the user experience to understand and be able to deliver a great experience for users. The second one really is it's really tough to troubleshoot and configure systems today. Like I said, I've been doing Wi-Fi over 10 years now, and a lot of times when employees report or customers report issues, they might call the help desk 2 hours later, really frustrated because this exec was on a sales call, the call dropped, and the problem is that you're unable to troubleshoot that issue. You've got to send an engineer with a sniffer and basically reproduce that issue. Sorry, give me 1 second here. Sorry, I was having some PowerPoint issues. I need AI for PowerPoint, I guess. So it's tough to troubleshoot. You need to send an engineer on site with a sniffer. Configuration can be challenging as well in terms of hunting through dashboards, CLI. It's also expensive to scale. So when you've got to roll out additional hardware like controllers, appliance servers, you're really not taking advantage of the cloud agility to really actually have an elastic scale. And then the last thing is really insight. So it's very limited in terms of what you can see across the network, and you end up having to hunt through dashboards and CLIs to get to things. So really believe there needs to be a change here. And how we are actually delivering that is what we have is AI-driven Wi-Fi. So it really is focused on delivering that predictable, reliable, measurable connection. And we do it through service level enforcement. So we define these things called SLEs, which I'll walk you through in the demo. But rather than just looking at, as I said, is the connection up, down, and what's the signal strength, actually start to apply metrics to the end-to-end connection so we know and can see anomalies when people aren't getting the service that they need. The second thing is really event correlation. So when things go wrong, be able to correlate, was there a config change? For example, an admin changed a QoS setting and deprioritized all the voice, that could cause some voice issues. And then packet capture. So we have something called dynamic packet capture, which is patented technology where when an issue happens, for example, let's say a user fails authentication, our APs actually capture a wireless packet trace. So now the administrator or help desk technician comes in 2 hours later, they can actually troubleshoot it without having to go to that employee and get them to reproduce the issue and do a wireless trace, or send an engineer off to the remote site to troubleshoot it. And then I think the last area that I'm really excited about is virtual network assistance. So we have a network assistant called Marvis. And effectively, it's an AI-driven assistant, kind of like Siri and Alexa, but for networking, where you interface with it through typed natural language processing. You can ask a question, troubleshoot user Jeff, and it'll actually go through and help you diagnose and resolve issues. So we think that's really the way you're going to be able to scale your IT team to not have to boost the number of folks on the help desk staff to support all these mobile and IoT devices. The second area of challenge and opportunity is really indoor location. And let me run through a couple examples here before I talk through some of the challenges. But indoor location is really booming, and it's because Bluetooth or Bluetooth LE is being built in devices as they come out. Mobiles, we're starting to see asset tags as well for non-connected devices. In the hospitality space, one of our customers, Walt Disney World Swan and Dolphin, there's actually a case study video you can see on our website. We did a press release with them today. They've been running Mist, and what they're leveraging it for is indoor location. So the convention area is very large. When they get visitors, guests come in, they want to help them navigate the property better, but also be able to do things like, I want to find the business center and be able to get those resources. Traffic analytics is the other area that's key, being able to look at how the event space is being used. And then indoor location on the retail side as well is very big. One of our customers, PetSmart, they've actually deployed in over 1,500 stores where they're using the Bluetooth LE so they give a better guest experience. When I come in and I'm shopping, I'll get a notification 15 minutes until your dog grooming appointment, or if you haven't bought dog food in 30 days, they can push a coupon, basically using this location technology. So it's really about delivering a better employee, guest, and customer experience. Healthcare is another big one where we're seeing a lot of demand here just because hospitals are very large and complex environments. You need to be able to navigate around them, speed up check-in, but also locate assets. Where did that infusion pump go? A great example here is Orlando VA Medical Center. They've actually deployed Mist. There's a webinar actually going on right now, which will be archived if you're in the healthcare space to look at. But it's really exciting to see what people are doing here. And really spans across multiple verticals. So Bluetooth is here, and it's starting to scale out across the verticals. But there's a challenge. If you look at how traditionally Bluetooth LE is deployed today, you typically have an access point that may have a single Bluetooth beacon in it. And then you end up having to deploy battery-powered beacons, which you stick on the wall, usually about 2 to 3 for every access point for Wi-Fi. So it's very complex to deploy. I've got to install these battery beacons. The batteries run out after a year or two. And it's a nightmare in terms of managing and scaling that for a large enterprise. So we looked at that problem and really figured out how can we eliminate that and make it simpler to scale and roll out. So we created this patented 16-element Bluetooth antenna array in our APs. So we can actually deliver from a single AP both Bluetooth LE coverage as well as Wi-Fi. So effectively you deploy it for 5 gig Wi-Fi density, and we will use triangulation and signal strength on the Bluetooth antenna array to create effectively virtual beacons. So if I want to have a beacon trigger when some customer walks past a display, in the old world, you had to physically go and stick a Bluetooth beacon on that area of the deployment. With Mist now, with this antenna array, you can just do it all from the management interface. I can basically drag a virtual beacon to a certain location, and now it will start triggering when people walk past it. So really, it allows you to scale and leverage machine learning to eliminate the manual calibration. So if we look back at where's Wi-Fi been? So in the early days, pre-2003, it was really all about standalone APs. You typically see in an enterprise, you might have had an AP in conference rooms or lobbies. When Intel came out with the Centrino, that was really the first boom here where we saw Wi-Fi getting built into laptops and customers wanted to deploy pervasive Wi-Fi. So controllers were founded at this point in time. So a lot of vendors came out with wireless controllers. It was really about simplifying configuration. So I do the configuration on a controller and it would push that to my access points as well as secure them. We also saw a little bit later first generation cloud technology come out, which was really focused at SMB. But there was an interesting thing happened around 2007. There was a really big storm of events. We saw the iPhone come out, things like tablets. We saw Amazon Web Services, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. So really there was this booming cloud technology as well as mobile devices. A year or two ago, we saw IoT really start to take off. All of these technologies did not even exist when the first or second generation Wi-Fi was created. So it was really a great opportunity for Mist to start here and build an enterprise scale cloud platform that can take in these technologies and really support enterprises into the future. So we really started with a clean sheet of paper here in terms of building a control plane on the APs. Why did we do that? It's really to get the state data out of the access points. So we collect over 150 pre and post connection states, and that allows us to monitor and enforce this service level or user experience. So we're looking not just from connecting to an AP, but all the way through that cycle of, for example, DHCP, DNS, and application traffic, so that you can actually leverage that data and apply data science to understand and get better insights into how the network's working. And this is what I will walk through a little bit later in more detail, is what we call our SLE or service level expectations, where we take things like time to connect, throughput, roaming, and we actually look at what are the sources of issues when, for example, there's a roaming issue. It could be due to 11R, OKC, the key exchange, or fast roaming. So really want to help troubleshoot when there is an issue, speed up identification of root causes, and be able to correlate, for example, was there a config change and all of a sudden my users fell off the network, like you can see up here. So what is the Mist wireless LAN solution? So it starts from the access point. So we have indoor and outdoor APs. These three models on the left do both Wi-Fi and BLE. We also have a BLE only, the BT11. This is really if you just rolled out a Wi-Fi deployment, you're not ready to move that to Mist, but you want to get the location services using virtual BLE, you can effectively daisy chain the BT11 with your existing APs and simplify that rollout and install. So they really feed all the data up to the cloud. So we built our cloud platform on a microservices architecture. So that's effectively breaking down the software into multiple isolated modules. Why is that important? It's important because it allows us to be agile. For example, we're coming out with updates every week, and because it's contained when, let's say, I update my radio resource management, it doesn't impact other areas of the code. Unlike traditional wireless systems where it's a monolithic code base, which is why you see updates come out fairly rarely, and it's risky when you do updates on older systems because everything in the system is changing, so you need to schedule that upgrade. So we're leveraging things like Spark, Storm, Docker, Kafka, which web scale technologies are built on. For example, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Google. And that allows us to stream in all this metadata and then apply the AI to it so we can really deliver that insight, improve location accuracy, and then provide recommendations and get insights into what's going on in the network. We have 4 services today that we really deliver everything across. On the left-hand side, there's 2 Wi-Fi services. The Wi-Fi assurance is really the base service. So that gives you your basic connectivity, things like your SLEs or service levels, troubleshooting with packet capture. And then there's the Marvis Virtual Network Assistant Service. So this is that natural language-driven assistant, really targeted at help desk folks. So if you have a help desk staff that isn't RF engineers, this allows them to effectively up-level so they can diagnose RF issues because the system will provide them the recommendations, and they can also dig into what's the scope of impact. Is it impacting one user or multiple to help prioritize tickets? And then on the right side are our Bluetooth LE services. So the engagement one is really targeted at the user. So things like indoor navigation, notifications, and then asset visibility is for locating things. So like in a hospital, you want to locate a wheelchair or an infusion pump. Or in an enterprise, I want to be able to analyze real estate analytics. What's my flow of employees? Are there certain conference rooms that are underutilized? Are all of my conference rooms utilized? And I need to look at better space planning. So it really allows you to look at traffic patterns within your business and optimize real estate, resources, product placement. So with that, I'm actually going to jump over to a live demo now on the system. So we come in here, this is basically the main dashboard. I'm actually going to set it to look at the last 7 days. So these are our service levels. As you can see, we have a WAN service level. So we're not just looking at the wireless network, we're also looking at the WAN side of the house, both in terms of our connectivity, but also integrating with partners to pull, for example, from the VeloCloud NSX SD-WAN, we can actually pull down metrics and information on the WAN links so that we can deliver those insights and be able to identify root causes of issues when they happen. I can look into time to connect. If I want to customize, for example, let's say I'm a video production company and I want to make sure I'm supplying a good throughput here, I can actually tune the SLE for what my throughput I want to monitor is, and now it will enforce that. Just going to close this. So let's actually dig into one of these in a little bit more detail. So let's have a look at time to connect, and I want to look at authorization. So we're seeing there's some authorization failures here. We can look at affected items to see who's impacted. As I can see here, we've actually got a desktop user. I can now click on that user and look into what's actually happening. So it'll provide a summary of the connection, basically showing me are there any issues. I can actually look into insights. This will actually show me events that are happening. So I can basically get from the user, for example, are there any bad events here? We're seeing an authorization failure. And as you can see, there's a button here where I can actually download a packet capture, open that up in Wireshark. I don't need to send an engineer on site. So it really speeds up that troubleshooting. A great example is a K-12 school recently that we deployed on. It was taking them over 2 weeks in most cases to identify issues, send staff on site to capture the issue from a faculty or student. Now they're able to resolve most of the issues in under an hour because they can pull down this packet capture and identify it and troubleshoot it. So the other exciting area I wanted to show you was Marvis, which is that virtual network assistant. So here we can see, let's say I want to know if there's any users with issues. I can say unhappy users at office, if I can spell. So here you can see it's actually ranked my clients and basically flagged which users have connection issues. So it really allows you to get to the root cause of an issue very quick. I can look at classifiers. Let's say I wanted to replace an access point in the marketing area because let's say I deployed a low performance AP and I've got a very high density now there. I can do locate AP marketing. And this is actually going to pull it up on the map and show me exactly where that access point is. So I didn't need to go hunting through dashboards or CLI. It's really about bringing all this information to the tip of your fingers to really speed up troubleshooting. Or if I want to get insights into what's the load on the network, we can look at top NAP, and this is going to rank my access points. For example, we can see here engineering's pretty busy. We've got about 220 clients connected on that access point. So again, really easy to see insights. Or let's say I had heard there's an OS issue with a certain version of iOS. I can look at what my impact is going to be across the network. Here it's actually ranking the OSs connecting to my network, and I could drill down. Or let's say I wanted to understand my iPhone population. Here we can see there's 63 iPhones. I can click on that, see what types of devices those are. I could even clarify this if I wanted to know Model X. So really get down to the root cause of an issue. Now let's say a user had called the help desk. Let's say Jeff had reported an issue, and in the office, let's see what the system identifies as any issues that he was having last week. So right now, it's basically going through all that metadata, applying the data science to understand, are there any issues? For example, it's found there's 2 issues here. One's a throughput issue, and it's happening about a quarter of the time, and it's actually identified that it's due to WAN throughput. So it's not wireless in this case, it's due to the WAN. We've got a coverage issue about 10% of the time, and here it's identified that it's weak signal strength. So again, these are things that somebody who's not familiar with wireless at a technical level is not going to be able to diagnose. The virtual network assistant really allows them to, as I said, up-level their game so that you can basically not have to spend so much time and resources in terms of hiring RF experts into your help desk or staffing up. It's really about making them more productive. So that's where I see the real value of AI is going to be. It's going to be enabling people to troubleshoot issues, get insights, and do better planning without having to hunt through CLI and dashboards. So the next area I wanted to look at is, we'll look into location here. So I'm going to pull up live view, and this is actually showing effectively, here you can see the green squares. These are actually access points in the deployment. The heads, those are mobile devices, could be a laptop, a smartphone, basically something connecting through Wi-Fi. And then, actually we don't have it on right now, let me turn it back on. So here we can see the Bluetooth symbols, the purple or pink ones, those are actually assets. So for example, if I'm tracking an infusion pump in a hospital, I could be tracking a mobile device. This allows us to locate those assets. And then the yellow squares, these are zones that I've created. So this is where, as I mentioned before in the presentation section, you can start to do zone analytics. So to understand, let's say employees are complaining about there's no conference rooms available. This gives you the insight into understanding, is that really the case? So let's actually look here at location analytics, because I want to understand the office space utilization. So here you can see that you've actually ranked all of the users' spaces, for example, boardroom, the Stratus conference room, and I can see what's the occupancy like. For example, the Stratus conference room is empty for 4 hours. So this allows you, again, to do better real estate planning and understanding how the space is utilized, or in a retail environment, be able to do better product placement. So what's the flow of users through my venue? We've actually got customers who've taken this data, because 100% of everything in our system is available through APIs. They're actually pulling this raw data and applying it into a graphing tool and creating a heat map of their venue, so they can understand what the flow of users or customers is through the venue space. So very powerful for doing real estate planning, product placement. So let's actually go back to live view, and I'm going to show you the virtual beacon functionality. So as I said, you don't need to place a physical beacon. Let's say I wanted to have, right when I walk past this area of the building, I want a trigger to go off. So we're going to say add a virtual beacon here. And as you can see, I just drag this to where I want it to trigger. I can hit edit here, type in some message I want to send to the users. I can even advertise the URL using things like iBeacon or Google Eddystone. Really allows you to engage with your customers. A museum's another great example. When people walk past displays, you can have this virtual beacon actually trigger so that they can get more information about the space. So again, as I said, very powerful, easy to add beacons here, and really eliminates that cost and complexity of having to send somebody on site. You can also get insight into what's going on in terms of the RF environment. So we have this tool called RF Glasses, which effectively gives you a view into how the location technology is working. So here you can see these are access points, the squares, and the negative numbers around the edges of the square are really the Bluetooth RSSI or signal strength and the direction that we're receiving it. So this is, like I said, where we use not just signal strength, which is traditional for BLE deployments, but with our antenna array, we're also able to get direction. So again, this allows us to create those virtual beacons. So it appears as if there's a beacon placed in a certain area of the building, but also be able to eliminate the need for battery beacons. I just deploy my access points for Wi-Fi 5 gig coverage, and that will give me the 1 to 3 meter accuracy with the Bluetooth devices that are coming on the network. So hopefully this gives you a quick view and understanding what's available. If you want to learn more, definitely stop by our booth at Wi-Fi Trek, or you can access our website, and we've got more information there where you can get access to it. So let me jump back now to the presentation, and we'll just wrap up with the last few areas. So really seeing success across all verticals. So I mentioned a few here. We're in 2 of the top pet retailers. PetSmart, for example, over 1,500 stores are deployed already today. We're in 2 of the Fortune 10 companies deployed across those enterprises. Walt Disney World Swan and Dolphin Hospitality, that's a great example where you can actually go to our website, and there's a video case study we've got posted up there if you want to learn a bit more about what's possible. Orlando VA, so that's a great example of a hospital. As I said, we're doing a webinar. They're actually doing a webinar today, which is going to be recorded and available. You can see that when you meet with us at Wi-Fi Trek or access that on the website. So really seeing across enterprises, so large-scale enterprises deploying Mist with the cloud, but also even down to smaller distributed enterprises. So we're really shifting away from the old world, which is really network-centric, focused on connectivity, to really move towards being more user-centric. So leveraging the cloud for agility, AI, as I said, really to give you those insights and when issues do happen, troubleshoot them quicker, just so that your users get a better experience. And then leveraging the location as well, again, to give better engagement for employees, guests, customers across the wireless network. Beyond the customers as well, industry awards, as well as analyst recognition. We've been a visionary in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for the last 2 years, which is the duration we've been shipping. We've been around for 4 years. The first 2 years we spent building the system. So we have wireless experts as well as data scientists. So it takes a lot of time to build an AI system up and start to build that knowledge base. But now we're really starting to see it ramp. On the location side as well, we're the only wireless vendor on the right-hand side in terms of completeness of vision. So really able to deliver that location as well as Wi-Fi across the infrastructure. So again, if you are attending Wi-Fi Trek, please come and see us. We will have a booth there. We also have our CTO and founder, Bob Friday. He's going to be talking about how to leverage AI in Wi-Fi, and that'll be October 18th at around 11 a.m. in the morning. So with that, I actually want to open it up for any questions. So again, if you have any questions, please enter them in the window and we'll run through those or follow up offline if I'm unable to answer them.
Excellent information. Thanks for sharing that. I know this is a very exciting area of Wi-Fi because, as you've pointed out, it does aggregate together so much of the data that is, quite honestly, challenging for someone either new to Wi-Fi or with basic Wi-Fi knowledge to process manually. And even an expert, it's wildly time consuming to go through all of this data, harvest the information to get some of these insights that are just provided instantaneously through systems like this. So there's no question that in my opinion, for large organizations, the cost savings of having something like this are huge, because otherwise you're going to have to employ several expert level engineers in an environment like that to be able to accomplish it. And you're needing as many because of the fact that you have to do it all manually. And so by automating this and getting these insights together, it means you need 1 or 2 expert engineers as opposed to 8 to 10 expert engineers to accomplish the same end goal. So I think it's a phenomenal asset to organizations moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the questions I get is AI going to eliminate those jobs? And I think what it is like I talked about, it's really what it's going to do is it's going to allow people to scale to support all those devices. So it's effectively helping them troubleshoot quicker, spend less time on reactive stuff like going out to a site and doing a wireless trace, and spend more time on focusing on the future focusing stuff, integrating new apps across the network.
Exactly. I answer that question a lot when they say, is this going to eliminate jobs in that space? My answer to that is twofold. Number one, hey, it's possible that some jobs could be unnecessary in the future, and that's okay. We're supposed to evolve with what is out there. But the second answer is that more than that, it's going to spread the jobs out. And so what I mean by that is, instead of me having to spend 8 hours gathering data that I'm going to do metrics against for 10 minutes, I can instead spend that 8 hours doing other things that are productive and beneficial to the organization, that add value, that add growth and improvement from an IT perspective. And I have the opportunity to have that time back to build a competitive advantage for my organization. And so to me, it's not so much about jobs being lost as jobs being refocused and being able to do those things that bring value. And IT brings tremendous value in organizations. And to have an asset sitting there just waiting on a capture for an hour and a half is quite costly. So if I don't have to do that, then that asset can be used in another way that actually brings even more value to the organization. So I think it spreads them out more than it does away with them.